Being able to cut your own glass and mirrors at home can save you both time and money. I'm Sandra, I'm a glass artist, and in this video I will show you how you can cut glass using a basic cheap glass cutter which you can find in just about any hardware store. I will show you how you can cut straight lines, curved lines and circles. Later in this video I will also show you some of the more professional glass cutting tools and how to use them. Most of these tools are actually not that pricey and can be very handy to keep in your toolbox for just in case. For purposes of this video, when I show you how to cut glass or talk about cutting glass, that includes mirrors, as the same concepts goes for cutting mirrors. The only difference is that with mirrors, you cut on the mirror side only. The type of glass, however, which you do not want to try to cut is tempered glass. For safety, you'll need some gloves and some safety glasses or any glasses that can protect your eyes from any flyaway little pieces of glass, especially when you cut smaller pieces of glass and you put a lot of pressure or too much pressure on it. It can happen that you get some airborne little pieces of glass. It is also a good idea to wear shoes, especially closed shoes. And another good idea is to have some band-aids nearby, just for in case. At the edge of the glass cutter, you have this little wheel, which is a diamond-coated wheel with which you're going to score the glass. It is a bit confusing. It's called a glass cutter, but it scores glass. And by scoring the glass, it breaks the tension of the glass, which makes it easier to break. To hold your glass cutter, you're going to put your index finger against the upright part there and get a nice grip to hold the glass cutter tightly. Then you're going to lubricate the wheel with some oil. You do get glass cutting oil in the shops, but they can be quite expensive, so there are some alternatives by using, for instance, I use sewing machine oil. You can also use baby oil, but do not use cooking oil as that is too thick. So I put my oil, I've got a little sponge and a little tub here, and I put my oil in and I can just press my wheel in there, roll it around a little bit, and my tip is lubricated. So I drew a line on this piece of glass which I want to cut. It's on a flat surface, my glass, as if there is anything underneath it and it is not steadily flat. The glass can break when you put pressure on it. For long cuts, I cut with a ruler, so I can press against it and hold it tight against the glass, press against it to cut a straight line. Because glass can be very slippery, if you take this ruler for instance, and when you put pressure on and you press against the ruler, then it can move easily. So I have this ruler with a thicker edge on the side, and at the bottom I've got this, it's like a spongy material. I bought it in a A3 sheet at a craft shop and used the very thin double-sided tape to stick it at the bottom. You can also use other fabrics which will make it non-slippery, such as felt, and then it will not move that easily. Keep in mind that the wheel is not exactly at the side, so you're going to have to put your ruler a little bit away from the line and just see that your wheel is on top of the line, in the center of the line. It is best to score glass standing up, because otherwise when sitting down, you, for instance, start on one side and your pressure will become less on the other side. So when you break your glass, it can go in either direction, or it can still break exactly as it should, but it's a chance that you take. So rather stand up so you can have enough pressure on both sides. I like to make a little starting point, but remember, if you hit your diamond tip on a hard surface too many times, it can in the long run damage your tip or your wheel. But I've got a thick layer of paper here, so it won't be that bad. And you should put pressure when scoring the glass, but not so much pressure that it will break the glass. But you should hear a screeching sound. Okay, so here we have our score line. In order to break your glass, you're going to take it to the edge of your table with the score line at the top. Just past the edge of the table, you're going to press on this side and you're going to press down on this side, but hold your glass so it doesn't fall. And the bigger the sheet of glass, the heavier it gets, of course, so make sure you do not drop this part. Just press down and there you go. The thing about glass is that you cannot cut corners, because when you break the glass, it wants to break in the straightest possible line towards an outer edge. So let me show you. It did run in quite a straight line here on my score line. If you want to cut some blocks or save some glass and not have it break this way, then you're going to cut all the way through. And then you'll cut your blocks. And with small pieces like this, you can just hold it in your hands like this and press down. Then the next type of cut and also the next type of break is by cutting curves. So I'm going to cut a curve into this glass. And then what you will do, instead of breaking it at the side, because it is possible for the glass to break to the inside to form more of a straight line, you're going to turn your glass around so the score line is at the bottom. You have this little ball under your glass cutter, and you're going to use this to tap all along the score line, and you will see how the line starts running. Don't tap too hard, but also don't tap too soft. See the score line running? What I've been using here today so far is normal 3mm thick flat glass, which is also window glass. And it will come apart. So the next and the last one before I get to the more professional tools is to cut a circle. It may be worth your while to stay put to see the more professional glass tools, especially if you foresee cutting more glass in future or a lot of glass in future. They are not as expensive as you would think. So yes, let's do this one and then stay put for the other tools. So first I'm going to cut my glass a little bit shorter. You will see that I cut my circle out in paper and glued it onto my glass. This is thick paper, so my edge can run along it. So I'm just going to cut my glass a little bit smaller. And now I'm going to go all around the edge with my glass cutter. If you have a big circle, because you turn it around as you go, Lazy Susan can help for that. And then there you hear that you've reached the end. Try not to score twice over the first score line, because if you go over a score line for a second time or third time, you can damage your wheel. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut to the outside from the score line on each side. Okay, then I'm just going to soak off the paper so I only have my glass. Also, always keep your surface clear from any small pieces of glass. I use a paintbrush as it picks up all the tiny little pieces. I've cleaned off the excess glue with some rubbing alcohol. So what you're going to do now is you're going to turn it around, and I like to use a soft surface for this because sometimes I press on the glass to let the score line run, and then with a little bit of a softer surface that helps, but not too soft. So I'm just going to tap this one out. You need some patience with this, so don't go too hard, otherwise you will break your glass. And keep hitting on the score line. It seems like I don't have the score line deep enough here. So I'm just going to do that little piece. Just press down on that one. Let me try this one, and it jumps out. I just want to tap here where I did that. There you have your circle. I have some of the little bit more professional glass cutting tools here with me. They can be more affordable than what you think, and I will show you how each of them work. So on Amazon you can actually get a kit of the glass cutter and your pliers, some extra tips and some small extras. You can also buy all of these in South Africa. I know that Glass Graphics in Cape Town ships as well. Or you can go onto the Facebook page of Stained, Fused and Blown Glass South Africa, and the people in your area I'm sure will be very helpful. My circle cutter I bought on Amazon because with the import costs and shipping costs it still worked me out cheaper to buy it from them. I'll show you how each of these work, and then I will also compare it with the glass cut with the cheaper glass cutter, and then you can decide for yourself. This is the pistol grip glass cutter, also with the little wheel, and it can actually swivel a little bit for when you're cutting curves. You can put oil inside, but for me it makes too much of a mess, so I like to use my little sponge in which I roll my diamond tip wheel. So this is a piece of 6mm glass which I'm going to cut a straight line. This is a big piece, so you can still break it off at the edge of your table, but I'm going to show you the running pliers. You'll see there's a little line in the middle. So if you put this line right in the center where your score line is, you'll see that this side and this side goes downwards. It breaks your glass downwards, just as what you would do off the table when you push it down. The running pliers are especially great for when you cut very narrow pieces of glass, when you can't break it at the edge of your table. There you have a very nice clean cut. I'm just quickly going to show you about cutting narrow strips. If your strip is too narrow, so the sides don't touch the glass, then you won't be able to break it with your running pliers. Then you will use your Grozer pliers. I will show you how that works as well. And also if you want to cut a corner, it's all nice, very clean breaks. And then if you want to cut a very narrow strip, see, this doesn't work because this side doesn't touch any glass where it closes. So with this I'm going to use my Grozer pliers. You use it with the thick side up. You're going to take it just before the score line, press it close, pull, and there you have it. There's a little piece that stayed behind, so I'm just going to cut this off. So if you have tiny little pieces that you want to chew away, you turn your Grozer pliers around and then you can chew little pieces away. I need a red circle for a project coming up, so I'm using the red glass. The circle cutter mine is marked in centimeters, so I'm going to set mine to around 9.5 centimeters. There's a little arrow and you line that up with the size that you want, and then you tighten it. And always lubricate your tip. And then it has a suction cup. You're going to put it down loosely, measure your glass so the glass cutter will go over the glass, and tighten it and feel that it is nice and tight. And you're going to press down on both sides and you're going to cut your circle, and when you get to the other side it will make a click sound, and then you know you've reached the other side. So next I cut out my glass smaller once again as I did with the previous circle. I start at the edge of the score line of the circle and then break it out with my running pliers. Once again, I make score lines from the circle score line to the edges, and then this time I'm going to do two different ways to get the circle out. I can't see the score lines properly, so I just mark them out for myself. So once again, I'm going to tap all along my score line until my score line runs and the glass comes out. The other side I'm going to show you, I'm going to do with my running pliers. I just press very softly so the score line starts running, and then I take it from the other side as well, and I get a nice clean break. You can see on this one that the breaks of the circle are much cleaner than the one that I cut before with the glass cutter. So using Grozer pliers again, to just remove the small pieces left behind. And there you have a nice clean cut circle. You do get some diamond hand polishing pads and sanding pads, but if you want to up your game a little bit, you get yourself a glass grinder with a diamond bit. So how it works is you put water inside and then a sponge in here which you wet first, because as soon as you put friction on glass and it becomes warm, your glass can break. So always when grinding, sawing or drilling your glass, with the type of friction you get from that, you will have to add water. And there you have a nice smooth edge. And then first prize will be the ring saw. This one you can move because it's a ring, the blade, you can move your glass in all directions. And that's it. Have fun, don't cut yourself, and thank you for watching.